And so we often talk a lot about, okay, so creating the right environment, what does that mean? And you may be thinking, well, okay, I get it, Austin. It's all about behavior, behaviors driven by the environment. How do I use that? What I'd like to do is walk away from this with something that I might be able to use. And so I'd suggest that you maybe think about the opportunities that you have to experiment with the environment. So given that your behavior is part of the environment, you have many, many examples, opportunities to experiment every day. And I think there are very few of us that take advantage of those opportunities the way that we should or could and observe the effects. So this makes me think of kind of, okay, so how do we explain the role of environment? I think one common example that many of you have heard of is broken windows theory. If you haven't heard of broken windows theory, let me just tell you a little bit about what I mean by this. If you had a building, if you imagine a building that had a couple of windows broken out, if they're not soon repaired, a few more windows might be broken out by vandals or just passersby. And if a number of windows end up being broken out, maybe then people go and occupy the building and maybe become squatters or light fires inside or hang out, have parties, whatever. These things might happen. A simpler example might be take a sidewalk where some litter kind of shows up on the sidewalk. And if no one cleans it up, pretty soon there's more litter. And then if no one cleans that up, pretty soon there's McDonald's trash bags all over the place. And then maybe a car gets broken into. So on one hand, we're dealing with, trash and stuff like that, which may seem kind of inconsequential to you. But on the other hand, we're dealing with life and death. And I think that a lot of you guys are in environments that you're dealing with this stuff, potentially, more often than you're dealing with the trash. But they're related in the sense that each exception gets you closer and closer to feeling like this bit's normal, right? So I'm not talking about, this is not a theory about vandalism in bad neighborhoods and stuff like that. We're each, and there's lots of research on this, by the way, we're each equally susceptible to the role of environment on our behavior. And so if there are certain things that are unacceptable behaviors and they're overlooked or ignored, not talked about, whatever, they start to become the norm. And so what we're really talking about here is what's normal behavior? What does normal behavior look like? If it's the norm to show up late for meetings, not complete your meeting action items, not return phone calls, to yell and scream at each other, to talk over each other, to interrupt, stuff like that, then you're going to get more of that behavior. It's just a scientific fact. There's another example that might be even a little closer to home that I'm thinking of here. There was a guy who started running an area of a manufacturing site. It was a big area, and the team felt kind of overwhelmed. And what he wanted to do was change the way that they reacted to broken down stuff. And so what he did was, rather than saying like, yeah, rah, rah, right team, get out and clean everything up, fix it. He said, all right, yeah, it feels overwhelming here. Let's divide this into 10 by 10 squares, this entire area, this entire site. We're going to divide it into 10 by 10 squares. And I'm going to take a picture of one of the squares today, how it is now, and we're going to put it up on the wall. And then we're going to start working on it. We're going to start cleaning it up. We're going to point to that picture during our team meetings, and then we're going to take another picture the next day or the next week as improvements are made. And then we're going to refer to that. And then we're going to talk to the team and recognize the people who were engaged in that cleanup. And people are going to start feeling pretty good about it. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. They fixed that 10 by 10 square, and then they said, right, let's move on to the next 10 by 10 square, right? This is called shaping. And there's tons of behavioral science to back it up. I'm not even sure the guy knew that he was doing shaping. He was just kind of taking a big and cumbersome problem and breaking it down into bits. And by the end, they had created a culture where this previously unengaged team was like really into this. They felt really good about it, and they had cleaned up the entire area over a couple of years. That's the way it's done. That's the way cultures change, behavior by behavior, bit by bit over time.